Hey guys, welcome to the T.rex training channel. My name is Brandon, and what we're talking about today is passive shooting. So let's define what passive shooting means and also its counterpart, active shooting. Now this is in regards to shooting with night vision. So the most common way to engage targets with night vision is with the means of a laser, and that is called active shooting. So what that means is when I want to engage a target, I'm just going to activate my laser. It's going to activate a laser and possibly an illuminator, and we call that active shooting. Now, passive shooting bypasses the laser, and I'm going to use my primary aiming system of my optic as my primary aiming solution. So what that means is I'm going to look through my night vision is going to look through the optic, and that is how I'm going to aim with my rifle with night vision. One reason why you may want to learn how to shoot passively is cost. Night vision is expensive, nods themselves are expensive, helmets are expensive, rifles are expensive, optics are expensive, and guess what? Lasers are also expensive. So if you're trying to get into night vision, sometimes the cheaper approach to get into night vision is just bypassing the laser and getting a good optic that you can passively shoot through, and then an illuminator if you want to add on to the capability. The second reason is possibly the most important reason, and that is the tactical aspect of shooting passively. So when I engage a target with my laser, if my adversary has night vision as well, they're going to be able to see where I am at. This is kind of where the term passive versus active comes from. So if my adversary again has night vision, I activate my laser and illuminator, they're going to be able to see exactly where it's coming from, and therefore they're going to know my position, and then they can shoot at me. So the main reason that you should be training to shoot passively is if your adversary has night vision as well and you want to be able to engage them without them knowing where you are, you're going to have to be able to engage them without an active means of aiming, i.e. your laser, and you're going to have to do it through your optic. Now you guys are probably already aware of the first 2 points, but the third point is actually the purpose of this video. I believe that shooting passively can be done at a higher level of skill comparatively to active shooting. So what I mean by that is I believe that you can engage targets in a practical manner, as in like shooting and moving, USPSA style shooting if you want to label it something simple like that, more efficiently, more effectively, more accurately, more fast than active shooting. So as we talk about this, all we're going to really talk about is rifle fundamentals and applying them to shooting with night vision. So what I mean by rifle fundamentals is recoil management. Now, generally people have an issue with shooting passively because of their poor rifle fundamentals. So what that means is people are starting to raise their optic up, then they're putting cheek risers on the gun, they're doing all of these different things to try and make passive shooting easier, when all you need is to learn proper stock placement and proper recoil control, and you'll be able to shoot passively quite easily. So what we have here, just to demonstrate how easy this setup is just a lower 1/3 EOTech on the gun. I do have dual tube night vision on. Obviously these are RNVG alphas with filmed L3 green phosphor tubes. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to demonstrate when we get to the demonstration shooting with just one tube on. So I'm basically going to be shooting a PVS 14. And I'm also going to shoot at dual tubes because obviously I'll be able to do it a little bit better with dual tubes. But the point is, regardless of my night vision setup on my head, and regardless of how low or how high my optic is, none of that really matters as long as your rifle fundamentals are proper. You should be able to shoot passively quite well. Now the actual training part of this video is going to be just talking about recoil control basically and applying it to wearing night vision and shooting passively through it. That's obviously the point of this video. So when we're talking about controlling recoil with a rifle while standing, so we're not going to talk about, you know, shooting in positions or in the prone or anything like that. The principles are the same, but they can be explained in a different manner. So how I want to control the recoil of this gun best is by having as many points of contact between the rifle and my body as possible. So if I raise the optic on the gun, as in have like a 226 level optic, or even a 3-inch level optic, as in like put this EOTech on a riser, I am losing a point of contact with the gun. And that point of contact is my face. So if I have the optic all the way up here, which a lot of people are doing so they can shoot passively easier, I'm losing a point of contact with the rifle. So when we lose a point of contact with the rifle in the body, we generally have to overcompensate with one of the other 3 points of contact. So we generally have 4 points of contact, or we should have 4 points of contact between the body and the rifle. So I'm going to go through those, the most important one down to the least important one. So the most important point of contact between the gun and the body is the stock placement. So what I want is I want the stock in the shoulder. You've heard Lucas talk about this 100 million times by now. And what that's going to look like is the stock not going over my shoulder, and my shoulder is rolling into the gun. It's really that simple. Now, some people like to drive the stock more towards the center of their chest. That's totally fine. Now, some people don't do that because they're shooting in plate carriers pretty often and they don't want to get into a habit of moving the stock more into the chest. So if you look at some of the best world-class shooters out there that are shooting just in a practical manner, shooting for competition, you're going to see the stock start to creep more and more into the chest for that more consistent and just more meat behind the gun. So most important point of contact is the stock. The second most important point of contact is my support hand. So when I am grabbing this gun, this is going to be the next point of contact that's going to give me the most amount of recoil control. Third most important is my face to the gun. So like we just talked about, if my optic is raised off the gun, I'm losing that very important point of contact. And this is not only important for controlling recoil, but also tracking my optic and looking through targets. So think about it like this. If my face is not attached to my gun, when I transition the gun, I have 2 points of access that are transitioning between targets. So I have to keep my face lined up with the gun rather than keeping it attached to the gun, and that's just going to make target transitions and that sort of thing that much more difficult. That doesn't mean you can't do it at a high level, but you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And the last point of contact, and this is the least important, is your fire control hand. So generally, we are not gripping the gun super tight with this hand, but I mention it because if we lose the point of contact with our face and the stock, we have to overcompensate in the other 3 areas in order to have good recoil control. So when we're shooting with a laser, we only have 3 points of contact with our body and the gun. We are generally shooting like this. The gun is kind of in our shoulder and it's canted, and our face is not touching the gun. The reason why we're able to shoot our guns very fast and very controlled without that point of contact is because we're overcompensating for no face on the gun with canning the gun into our shoulder. So if you ever shot with a canted red dot on your rifle and you have that good stock placement and your face is on the gun and the gun is canted, it's tremendous recoil control. But that's not doable with traditional mounted optics. So if I, again, like I said for the 3rd time now, if the optic is just mounted super high, I'm losing the point of contact. I can't overcompensate other than just by pulling the gun super tight or over gripping with this hand in a way that I shouldn't. So hopefully you guys are starting to get the point of what I'm trying to make here. So if I'm able to have all 4 points of contact with the gun through my night vision, in theory, I should have better recoil control comparatively to shooting actively. So 4 points of contact shooting passively, it should be better in theory than only 3 points of contact shooting actively. Now that we explained everything, let's start to demonstrate things. So generally, what people have the hardest time doing when it comes to shooting passively is getting all of the things to line up, right? So I have to have my eyeball lined up with my tube to line up with my optic, and all that needs to be straight on the same axis or same plane, or whatever you want to call it, in order for you to be able to see through your optic well. Now this is where proper rifle fundamentals really come into play. So if I am used to shooting my gun like this, creeping my head down, getting into my optic, or shooting like this, my head is canted in some sort of way, in a way that it shouldn't, where my eyeball can still look through the optic. Now, when you're shooting with night vision, you don't have the luxury of being able to move your eyeball around. You're looking straight through the tube. So what that means is you need to have good fundamentals in order to do this. I need things to be lined up perfectly. I can't be doing this with the gun or doing one of these numbers or anything crazy like that. What I need to do is when I present the gun, it's up, my eyes already looking through it, and I don't need to cant my head in order to fix the improper angle of my head. So let's demonstrate actually lining everything up properly. So what this is going to look like is when I get my gun into my shoulder and I present, my head should not be coming to my gun all that much. There could be a little bit of getting my cheek to dig into the stock, but I'm not rolling my head to the side. I'm not rolling my head down. I'm not doing anything crazy like that. So I'm gonna put my one night vision tube down, so just to make sure that I'm doing this right as I explain this. But as I come up, gun is up, my cheek is on the gun. I have good stock placement here. My shoulder is rolled over, and I am looking through my optic just like I would as if I'm shooting during the day. Now this is going to be key. Again, if I have to come up and my optic's so high that I have to keep my stock like this, obviously not the best recoil management, or I'm used to canting my head down trying to fish looking through the optic, you're not going to be able to see through your optic, especially with night vision. So the way I'm going to demonstrate this is just through a very simple drill. We have 3 targets downrange that are about 5 yards apart, and I have 3 distances set. I don't know exactly what the distances are. They're about 25, 15, and 10 yards away from the targets. At each distance, I'm going to shoot 3 rounds on each, run up, shoot 3 rounds on each, run up to the final stick, shoot 3 rounds on each. I'm going to do this both actively and passively, and hopefully this will demonstrate that you can shoot just as good passively as you can actively, if not better. Now with this drill, because the targets have that space between them, I am going to have to look. So that means I have that target transition that we talked about earlier that we're gonna have to be, have all those good points of contact in, so I'm not bringing my gun over and my head's kind of following. And also with the movement, I have to be able to get onto my gun or even possibly get in a position like I want to, as in I'm already presenting on the target as I'm arriving in a position and like I could with a laser. So if I'm doing all of the things correctly passively, I'll be able to target transition very quickly. And as I'm entering the position, I'll be able to enter in and get shots off quickly, because with a laser, I can just point and shoot, run up, I can keep the laser on as I get in position. As soon as I arrive, I can shoot. So let's test it out and see how well we do. It's a little cold out here. All right, so that run, I think the shot timer got it right. It's an 1861. I had 14 alphas, 10 charlies, 3 deltas, hit factor of a 5.53. So that was with active shooting with the laser. Now let's do it with passive shooting. So I said earlier that we're gonna shoot with just one tube, but we're gonna shoot dual tubes here because of the lighting we have set up for filming. Just so the camera can see. That light reflects off the back of the optic and it makes passive shooting very difficult. So I'm gonna need both tubes to be able to help me out a little bit. So misspoke earlier. Felt pretty good. Let's see what that time was. Okay, so the 1750, or a second faster so far. Let's check the hits. I got 5. So 5 alphas, 6 alphas, and 3 charlies. 6, 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right, got them all scored up. Sorry about that. Didn't bring out a pace gun, but just to reiterate, first run shooting actively, that means with the laser, was an 1861, hit factor of 553. It was 14 alphas, 10 charlies, and 3 deltas, 27 total hits. The second run shooting passively, that means no laser, looking just through my night vision device through the optic. The 1750 with a hit factor of 611. It was basically the same hits. There's just one more alpha and one less delta. So it was 15 alphas, 10 charlies, and 2 deltas. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, actually the point of this video is you should be able to shoot just as effectively passively as you do actively. In fact, if you're shooting in a practical standpoint like this, just a shooting and moving drill, you're doing like USPSA style shooting. That's the way I like to explain practical shooting. You should be able to shoot passively just as well as you can actively, if not better. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you guys got something out of this. Just to reiterate the main points of this one more time. If you're looking to shoot passively well, or actually to be able to shoot it at all, you need just good rifle fundamentals. You don't need a tall optic. You don't need anything crazy like that. You just need those good rifle fundamentals. So until next time, guys, this is Brandon from T.REX.